Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Cat Tales, a Warrior Cats Reread podcast. My name's Coffee, and I'm your host. I'm currently recording this on Thursday, December 4th, literally the day before this episode is supposed to come out. I almost had to create a quick post saying there'd be no episode this week. I got sick. I got a cold. I'm better now. As you can probably tell, I'm still a little bit nasally and stuffed up, but I'm feeling better and well enough to record, which is good because we have a pretty hefty episode, and I hate getting behind. Last Friday was in America. If you're from America, you know this, but if you're not aware or live in a different country, I don't know if other countries have Black Friday. America has Black Friday, where stores put out a bunch of deals for their products, both online and in person, but it's mostly a big day that people will go shopping in person. I think I've mentioned this before, but I have 3 jobs currently. 2 of them are remote, and the third one is a seasonal retail associate at a local clothing store in an outlet mall close to my house. I had to work a 12-hour shift on Black Friday, which was last Friday. Yep, 12 hours. I got an hour break, although I didn't even really get the entirety of that because I had to do something, but so as you can imagine, I was very tired after that, and there were also every single person on earth, plus their mother, plus their brother, plus their freaking dog, was at this mall all day. And the store I work at happens to be very popular. I'm not going to dox myself and say which one it is. It was honestly a nightmare. I don't know how I survived. But, there were so many people coming in and out. A couple of my coworkers were sick. I can imagine a bunch of people coming in and out of the store were sick and spreading germs everywhere. So, I ended up getting a cold a couple days after Black Friday. And I've been sick, for almost a week now. But I'm on the tail end of it. And I go back to work tomorrow, in person. So, I'm doing better. But, I just wanted to explain why I might sound stuffy or nasally or whatever. But yeah, still on our regular schedule, which is good. Alright, so where did we leave off last? Right, a bunch happened. Fireheart finds out Gray Stripe is sneaking out of camp to see Silverstream. He's not happy about this. A bunch of cats in the camp are getting sick. We find out that Blue Star has white cough, which is really not good considering she has 2 lives left. And they're having a little bit of a rivalry with RiverClan at the WAYYY. They're having a rivalry with RiverClan at the moment over just territory disputes. We're going to pick up where we left off. I have a lot of notes on these chapters, so this will be fun. Alright, chapter 16. As of right now, it's noon, the day after Yellowfang told Fireheart about Blue Star's white cough. He sits near Blue Star's den to try to hear anything from inside. Willowpelt passes by and tips her head questioningly at him. He knows she's asking about Blue Star. He tells her he has nothing to report. Cinderpaw and Brackenpaw have a break from training today and are looking bored. Fireheart wanted to stay in camp because of Blue Star, and luckily Tigerclaw isn't around to criticize his decision because he's out on patrol. End quote. Suddenly, the lichen at Blue Star's den twitched and Frostfur burst through. She raced across the clearing to Yellowfang's den and reappeared within moments with the medicine cat behind her. Fireheart bounded over to Blue Star's den just as Frostfur and Yellowfang pushed through the hanging lichen. He stopped outside and sat down, his heart racing. Frostfur peered out. "What's wrong?" Fireheart asked, his voice trembling. Frostfur closed her eyes. "She has green cough," she told him bleakly. "Stand watch and make sure no one comes inside." She ducked back inside. Fireheart sat motionless as shock flooded through him. Green cough. Blue Star really was in danger of losing another life. So yeah, Blue Star now has the equivalent of the flu. Things are looking very bad because cats die from green cough pretty often. So that's really not a good sign. A sharp yowl outside the camp made him turn and look toward the gorse tunnel. Dustpaw exploded into the clearing and skidded to a halt beside Fireheart. "I've come from Tigerclaw," he panted. "I have a message for Blue Star." "She's sick," Fireheart replied. "You can't go in." Dustpaw flicked his tail impatiently. "Tigerclaw needs to see her at the Thunderpath. It's very urgent." "What's wrong?" Dustpaw glared at him. "Tigerclaw asked for Blue Star," he sneered. "Not some kitty pet pretending to be a warrior." Guys, I don't know how Fireheart is not crashing out every time someone craps on him for being a kitty pet. At this point, And I know he was already annoyed, at the start of the book when this was happening, but, I don't understand how he keeps it together at this point. Fury shot through Fireheart, and he unsheathed his claws. Bluestar can't leave the camp, he growled. He flattened his ears and moved so that he blocked the entrance to his leader's den. Fireheart is right. Yellowfang's rough meow sounded behind him. She had come out of Bluestar's den. Dustpaw looked at the medicine cat, shrinking beneath her orange gaze. Tigerclaw has found evidence of ShadowClan warriors in our territory, he meowed. They've invaded our hunting grounds. In spite of his fear for Bluestar, Fireheart felt his lip curl in anger. How dared they, after what ThunderClan had done for them? Now ThunderClan might have 2 clans hunting in their territory, which is really not good. But Yellowfang wasn't interested in Dustpaw's report. She turned to Fireheart, her eyes filled with urgency. Fireheart, she meowed. Tell me, do you know whether there's any catnip in the two-leg place? Catnip? Fireheart echoed. I need it for Bluestar, Yellowfang explained. It's an herb I haven't used for moons, but I think it will help her. The medicine cat had Fireheart's full attention now. She continued. It has soft leaves and an irresistible scent. Fireheart interrupted her. Yes, I know where to find some. He had never seen it in the woods, but as a kid he had rolled in a patch in his two-leg home. Who is randomly growing catnip? Genuinely. Good, replied Yellowfang. I need as much as you can carry, and fast. What about Tigerclaw? Demanded Dustpaw. Tigerclaw will have to deal with it on his own for the moment, Yellowfang snapped. Cinderpaw had been watching them from the tree stump. She bounded up. Deal with what himself? She mewed excitedly. Fireheart signaled her to be quiet with an urgent flick of his tail. Dustpaw ignored the apprentice. ShadowClan could be in our territory by now, he hissed. Cinderpaw's eyes widened, but she held her tongue. Yellowfang paused to think. Where's Whitestorm? She asked. Patrolling Sunning Rocks with Sandpaw and Mousefur, Dustpaw answered. Yellowfang nodded. With Bluestar sick and Fireheart fetching catnip, we can't risk sending any more warriors out of the camp. If ShadowClan is in our territory, they might attack here. They've done it before, she reminded him grimly. If I'm quick getting the catnip, Fireheart put in, I could meet Tigerclaw afterward and bring back his message for Bluestar. Dustpaw's eyes flashed. But he wants Bluestar to see the evidence for herself. ShadowClan has left the remains of Freshkill on our side of the Thunderpath. Yellowfang silenced him with a growl. Bluestar doesn't need to see the evidence, she rasped. The word of her deputy ought to be enough. Tigerclaw just needs to be told that Bluestar can't come, meowed Fireheart. I'll take the message to him after I fetch the catnip. Where is he? I'll go, Dustpaw spat. Do you think you're a better messenger than me because you're a warrior and I'm just an apprentice? He threw Fireheart a look of pure hatred. I literally shook my head at this. He is such a hater. But Yellowfang had no time for quarrels. The clan will need protecting while Fireheart is gone, she hissed at Dustpaw, flattening her ears. Isn't that duty important enough for you? Now where is Tigerclaw? Beside the burned ash tree that overhangs the Thunderpath, Dustpaw replied sulkily. Right, Yellowfang growled. Go now, Fireheart, quickly. As Fireheart sped away across the clearing, he heard small paw steps running after him. Fireheart, wait! Go back to your den, Cinderpaw, he meowed over her shoulder without slowing down. But I could go and give Tigerclaw the message while you get the catnip. She's so adorable, and she really wants to be the best warrior she can be. It's so wholesome. Fireheart stopped in his tracks and turned to face his young apprentice. Cinderpaw, if there are any ShadowClan warriors around, you need to stay in camp. Cinderpaw looked crushed, but Fireheart didn't have time to worry about her feelings. Go back to your den, he growled. Without waiting to see her reaction, he turned and charged out of the camp. So Fireheart goes to his old two-leg nest and is bombarded with memories, like playing with toys, eating kibble, and his old name, but he remembers Bluestar's dire situation and locks in. He finds the catnip, and luckily there's enough that was protected from frost by a bush to be used. He rushes back to camp and delivers the catnip to Yellowfang. He catches his breath and realizes he can smell Cinderpaw's excited scent in the camp entrance. He asks Brackenpaw where she is, but he doesn't know. Frostfur is pacing outside Bluestar's den, clearly stressed, so he assumes she doesn't know either. End quote. Fireheart wondered what to do. He didn't have time to find Cinderpaw himself, and he didn't want to tell the other warriors that she was missing. Graystripe, he thought suddenly. Graystripe could look for her while he went to find Tigerclaw. Fireheart hurried to the warrior's den and slipped inside. Graystripe's nest was empty. A flash of anger shot through Fireheart. Where was his friend when he needed him? As if he couldn't guess. Fireheart snorted crossly. Cinderpaw would have to fend for herself until he had found Tigerclaw and told him Bluestar was sick. How does no one else notice how long Graystripe is gone? He seems to be out of camp all the time. There's gotta be other cats besides Fireheart that are sus by now. Fireheart raced back through the gorse tunnel and began the journey to the Thunderpath. As he followed the trail up the side of the ravine and into the woods, he was aware that Cinderpaw's scent hung in the air. She must have come this way. Of course! She had gone to meet Tigerclaw herself. The fur on Fireheart's spine prickled with worry and frustration. How could she be so foolish? As he skirted Snake Rocks, Fireheart began to smell the Thunderpath and hear the roar of its monsters. Suddenly, a shrill, high-pitched squeal sounded from the edge of the trees. Fireheart felt the blood run cold in his veins. It was the same cry he had heard in his dream. I struggled to remember what dream he was referring to, but it must be the one he had in the beginning of this book. He raced out of the trees and skidded to a halt on the grass border beside the thunderpath. He looked desperately up and down the verge and spotted an ash tree charred by lightning. That must be the place where Dustpaw had said Tigerclaw wanted to meet Bluestar. But the deputy was still some way in the distance, padding calmly toward the ash. Fireheart broke into a run. The verge was very narrow here, with scarcely room for a rabbit, but Fireheart kept going. He called out to Tigerclaw as he ran. "Did you hear that cry?" But the roar of an approaching monster drowned out his words. Fireheart shuddered as it passed, waiting for the noise to die away so he could call out again to Tigerclaw. Then he noticed something beside the ash, a dark shape on the thin strip of grass. With a sickening jolt, he recognized the small body lying motionless beside the thunderpath. It was Cinderpaw. And that's the end of chapter 16. Okay, chapter 17. Quote, Fireheart stared in horror. Ahead of him, Tigerclaw had reached the limp body and stood looking down at it, his massive shoulders rigid with shock. Fireheart forced himself nearer. Tentatively, he stretched his head forward and sniffed Cinderpaw's flank. She smelled of thunderpath. One of her hind legs was twisted and glistening with blood. Fireheart was trembling so much he could hardly stand. Then he saw her side moving. She was still breathing. Speechless with relief, he looked up at Tigerclaw. "She's alive," the deputy growled. He fixed his amber stare on Fireheart. "What was she doing here?" "She came to find you," Fireheart whispered. "You mean you sent her here?" Fireheart's eyes widened with surprise. Did Tigerclaw think he would be so stupid? "I told her to stay in camp," he protested. "She came by herself." "Because I couldn't make her listen to me," he realized with dismay. Tigerclaw snorted. "We must get her home." He bent down with his mouth open, reaching for the small, crumpled body, but Fireheart dipped his head and picked up the apprentice by the scruff of her neck before Tigerclaw could touch her. He began to drag Cinderpaw into the woods as gently as he could, her body hanging limply between his front paws. Darkstripe came bounding up to them. "I've checked Snake Rocks again, Tigerclaw. There's no sign of shadow—" He broke off when he saw Cinderpaw dangling from Fireheart's mouth. "What's happened?" Fireheart didn't wait to hear Tigerclaw's answer. He stumbled away through the trees with his precious burden. He could have prevented this accident. If only he'd made Cinderpaw listen to him, if he'd been a better mentor. Now her body was damaged and bleeding, and she made no sound as she dangled from his jaws. Her hind paws scored a shallow trail through the leaves as carefully Fireheart carried her home. This is an extremely haunting image. She's so innocent and full of life. And now it could be taken away. Like, she's alive for now, but, I mean, she got hit by a car. That's really not good. And it's really sad that Fireheart's beating himself up. Like, it really was not his fault. He told her to stay in camp and she didn't listen. So Fireheart gets back to camp and makes a nest in the medicine den for Cinderpaw. Yellowfang assesses her and says that she's hurt very badly, but I might be able to save her. Fireheart is relieved and clings on to the tiny drop of hope that she will survive, but Yellowfang goes on to say that she can't promise anything. She tells him that Bluestar is extremely ill and she can't do anything else, so her fate is up to StarClan. Fireheart's eyes cloud with emotion, which means basically tearing up. I don't know if cats can cry or not, but in this universe it makes sense if they can. And Yellowfang tells him to go sit with Bluestar. Fireheart is torn because both of his bonds with Bluestar and Cinderpaw are very strong. End quote. A shadow loomed at the far end of the fern tunnel. Tigerclaw was sitting at the entrance to Yellowfang's den, his head held high as usual. Fireheart's shoulders stiffened with anger. Why couldn't the great warrior show some sign of sorrow? After all, Cinderpaw had come looking for him. And for what? There hadn't been any evidence of ShadowClan Freshkill that Fireheart had noticed. That's a little fishy to me. He walked past Tigerclaw without a word and headed across the clearing toward Bluestar's den. Goldenflower is grooming Bluestar when Fireheart gets to her den. She's taking care of her like a mother, and I really enjoy their dynamic, especially between she-cats. I love to see unrelated clanmates care for each other. Goldenflower tells him that Yellowfang gave Bluestar feverfew and catnip, so all they can do now is watch and wait. Fireheart settles down in front of her, noticing her breathing is very shallow and she has no strength to cough, which is really not good. End quote. Her breathing stopped just before dawn. Fireheart had almost dozed off when he realized the cave was silent. There was no noise from the camp outside either, just a deathly hush, as if the whole clan were holding its breath. Bluestar was completely still. Fireheart knew she was with StarClan, preparing for her remaining life. He had watched Bluestar lose a life before. He felt his fur prickle at the eerie peace that seemed to unfold her body, but there was nothing he could do, so he waited. Suddenly, Bluestar gasped. "Fireheart, is that you?" she meowed in a croaky voice. "Yes, Bluestar," Fireheart murmured. "I'm here. I have lost another life." Bluestar's voice was weak, but the relief made Fireheart want to reach forward and lick her between the ears, as Goldenflower had done. When I lose this one, I will not be able to return. Fireheart swallowed hard. The thought of the clan losing its great leader pained him, but the thought of losing his mentor and friend hurt even more. How do you feel? Shall I fetch Yellowfang? Bluestar shook her head slowly. The fever is gone. I am well enough. I just need to rest. I love Warrior's logic. Yeah, her fever is just magically gone. She's all better now, because she went to StarClan and she died. That's not how sickness works. Very well, meowed Fireheart. Light was beginning to filter through the lichen, and his head swam from his wakeful night. You must be tired, meowed Bluestar. Go and get some sleep. Yes, Fireheart heaved himself up. His legs felt stiff from lying so long. Is there anything you need? No, just tell Yellowfang what has happened, answered Bluestar. Thank you for sitting with me. Fireheart tried to purr, but it caught in his throat. There would be time for more words later. Fireheart steps outside and sees snow on the ground. He is quite amazed. He's never seen snow before. Quote, it felt wet and cold, crunching loudly under his paws. I remember when we used to get snow. Now we don't, but we might this winter, depending on how things go. Tigerclaw is giving orders to fix up the camp, to pad up the nursery with leaves, scrape out a hole to store prey, and create basically a fridge with the snow in the hole to keep prey fresh, which is very smart. And then starts to organize hunting parties. He begins to call Fireheart over to join, but then says, oh, I suppose you'll have to rest. I can't imagine you'll be any use on a hunting party this morning. Fireheart is hostile now and tells him he's going to see Cinderpaw first. Tigerclaw asks how Bluestar is, and he decides not to give a solid answer, because he doesn't trust him, which is smart. Quote, Fireheart walked over to Yellowfang's den, relieved to escape the frenetic bustle of the camp. His heart began to pound as he wondered what state he would find Cinderpaw in. Yellowfang, he called. Hush! Yellowfang sprang from Cinderpaw's bracken nest. She's sleeping at last. She's had a hard night. I couldn't give her poppy seeds to ease the pain until she'd recovered from the shock. But she's going to live? Fireheart's legs felt wobbly with relief. I can't be sure for a few days. She's hurt inside, and one of her hind legs is badly broken. But it'll mend, won't it? Fireheart pleaded desperately. She'll be training again by New Leaf? Yellowfang shook her head, her yellow eyes sympathetic. Fireheart, whatever happens, Cinderpaw will never be a warrior now. That is heartbreaking. She was so passionate and excited. Fireheart's head spun. He was dizzy with lack of sleep, and this devastating news sapped the last of his energy. Cinderpaw had been entrusted to him for her warrior training. Memories of the naming ceremony pricked like cruel thorns. Cinderpaw's excitement, Frostfur's motherly pride. Does Frostfur know? He meowed, feeling hollow. Yes, she was here till dawn. She's back in the nursery now. There are other kits to tend to. I'll ask one of the elders to sit with Cinderpaw. She needs to be kept warm. I can do that. Fireheart padded over to the nest where Cinderpaw was sleeping and looked inside. She squirmed, and her blood-smeared sides heaved as though she were fighting a battle as she slept. Yellowfang gently nudged Fireheart with her nose. You need to get some sleep, she rasped. Leave Cinderpaw to me. Fireheart stayed where he was. Bluestar lost another life, he burst out. Yellowfang blinked for a moment, then lifted her head to StarClan. She didn't utter a word, but Fireheart could see the anguish in her orange eyes. You know, don't you? He murmured. Yellowfang lowered his chin. That's a typo. Yellowfang is trans for 2 seconds. No, Yellowfang lowered her chin and gazed into his eyes. That this is Bluestar's final life? Yes, I know. A medicine cat can tell these things. Will the rest of the clan be able to tell as well? Fireheart asked, thinking of Tigerclaw. Yellowfang narrowed her eyes. No, she will be no weaker in this life than she was in any of her others. And that's basically the end of the conversation. Yellowfang offers him poppy seeds to help him sleep, but he declines. He's too on edge about ShadowClan perhaps becoming a threat again, so he wants to stay on alert. Quote, Graystripe was back in the warrior's den. Fireheart did not speak to him. His rage at finding him missing the night before lingered like a dull bruise. He padded silently to his nest, circled once, and settled down to wash. Graystripe looked up. You're back then? He sounded edgy as if he wanted to say more. Fireheart stopped licking his forepaw and stared at Graystripe. You tried to warn Silverstream off, Graystripe hissed furiously. Willowpelt, who was dozing on the other side of the den, opened one eye, then closed it again. Graystripe lowered his voice. Stay out of it, will you? He spat. I'm going to keep on seeing her, whatever you do or say. Fireheart snorted and flashed a resentful glance at his friend. His talk with Silverstream seemed so long ago he'd almost forgotten it. But he hadn't forgotten that Graystripe had been missing when he needed help finding Cinderpaw. He laid his head angrily on his muddy forepaws and closed his eyes. Cinderpaw was battling against her injuries, and Bluestar was on her 9th life. As far as Fireheart was concerned, Graystripe could do what he liked. Period. Fireheart has the right state of mind here. I'd be furious if my so-called best friend wasn't there in a dire time of need because he was off seeing his girlfriend. His illegal girlfriend, at that. I'm Team Fireheart all the way. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I just blew my nose a million frickin' times. Alright, we're gonna move on to Chapter 18. It's the next day, It snowed a lot overnight, so Fireheart has to leap over the snow to get anywhere, but he finally gets to a clear area of the camp and sits down. Quote, he tensed when he saw Graystripe plowing through the snow toward him. The Grey Warrior seemed unbothered by it, protected from its damp chill by his thick pelt. His face was shadowed with sorrow. Have you heard about Bluestar? He asked as he neared. She lost a life to Greencough. Fireheart flicked his ears impatiently. He could have told his friend that last night. I know, he snapped. I was with her. Why didn't you tell me? Mewed Graystripe, shocked. You weren't exactly in a friendly mood last night, if you remember. Anyway, if you weren't always off breaking the warrior code, you might know what was going on in your own clan, he snarled. Oh, he ate that. 10 out of 10. He ate that up. Graystripe's ears twitched uncomfortably. I've just seen Cinderpaw, he meowed. I'm sorry she's so sick. Sick? Bro, she has a life-threatening injury. That's not really sick. He is not freaking paying attention. How is she? She looked bad, but Yellowfang said she's pulling through, replied Graystripe. Fireheart stared anxiously across the clearing and stood up. He wanted to see his apprentice for himself. Graystripe meowed. She's asleep now. Frostfur's with her, and Yellowfang doesn't want anyone else disturbing her. Fireheart flinched involuntarily. How is he going to tell Frostfur that it was his fault that Cinderpaw went to the Thunderpath? Instinctively, Fireheart turned to Graystripe, seeking reassurance. But Graystripe was trudging across the snowy clearing toward the nursery. Off to see Silverstream, Fireheart guessed resentfully, sheathing and unsheathing his claws as he watched his friend disappear from sight. This is so sad. Graystripe just does not care. Like, he's not even trying to be a friend still. All he cares about is a stupid girlfriend. While Fireheart is kind of seething, Speckletail, one of the queens, tells him 2 of Brindleface's kits now have Greencough. They might die, and Yellowfang can only do so much. Fireheart is angry at how she doesn't seem shaken by this, and leaves camp to get some air, because Speckletail is very, matter-of-fact. And sickness is a fact of life, but I guess Fireheart's just, he's so done. Quote, he jumped up and raced blindly across the snowy clearing, through the gorse tunnel and out into the forest. He was startled to find himself heading instinctively for the training hollow. The thought that he should be there, teaching Cinderpaw, was more than he could bear. As he veered to avoid it, he heard the voices of Whitestorm and Brackenpaw. The white-furred warrior must have taken Brackenpaw for training while Fireheart had been sleeping. Had no cat stopped to grieve for Bluestar's lost life? Fireheart's throat tightened as he fought back his rage and ran on, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and the camp. He has the empathy autism. So, there's not much he can do, but he just decides to gather more catnip for Yellowfang, so he runs to his old 2-leg home and collects more. Quote, with his mouth crammed, Fireheart stared toward the swinging flap he had used as a kit. He wondered if his 2-leg housefolk still lived there. They'd been kind to him. He had spent his first leaf bearer cosseted in their nest, warm and safe from the cruelties of Thunderpaths and Greencough. The scent of this catnip must be going to my head, he thought sharply. Not him getting a second-hand high. Fireheart's stoner era? He bounded up the garden and onto the fence with a single leap. He was unnerved by how much the thought of his 2-leg home had stirred him. Did he really want the safety and predictability of a kitty pet's life? Of course not. Fireheart shook the thought away. But the idea of returning to camp didn't appeal to him yet. So he goes to Princess's house and calls out for her, and then waits. When she finally arrives, her belly is no longer swollen. Fireheart breathed in her scent as she approached and felt it warm him. You've kidded, he meowed. Princess gently touched his nose with hers. Yes, she mewed softly. Did it go okay? Are the kits all right? Princess purred. It was fine. I have 5 healthy kits, she meowed, her eyes glowing with pleasure. Fireheart licked her head and she mewed. I didn't expect to see you out in this weather. I came to find some catnip, Fireheart told her. There's Greencough in the camp. Princess's eyes clouded with worry. Are many of your clan ill? 3 so far. Fireheart hesitated for a moment, then meowed sadly. Our leader lost another life last night. Another life? Echoed Princess. What do you mean? I thought it was only an old she-cat's tale that cats have 9 lives. Bluestar was granted 9 lives by StarClan because she's leader of our clan, Fireheart explained. Princess looked at him in awe. Then it's true. Only for clan leaders. The rest of us have only 1 life, like you and like Cinderpaw. Fireheart's voice trailed away. Cinderpaw? Princess must have detected the grief in his voice. Fireheart gazed into her eyes, and the thoughts that had been troubling him began to tumble out. My apprentice, he meowed. She was hit on the Thunderpath last night. His voice cracked as he remembered finding her broken, bleeding body. She's badly hurt. She might still die, and even if she survives, she'll never become a warrior. Princess moved closer and nuzzled him. You spoke so fondly of her last time you were here, she mewed. She sounded full of fun and energy. The accident shouldn't have happened, Fireheart growled. I was supposed to meet Tigerclaw. He'd asked for Bluestar, but Bluestar was ill, so I offered to go instead. I had to fetch catnip first, and Cinderpaw went in my place. Princess looked alarmed, and Fireheart added quickly, I told her not to. But perhaps if I'd been a better mentor, she'd have listened to me. I'm sure you're a good mentor, Princess tried to soothe him, but Fireheart hardly heard her. I don't know why Tigerclaw wanted Bluestar to meet him in such a dangerous place, he spat. He said there was evidence that ShadowClan had invaded our territory, but when I arrived, there was no scent of them at all. Was it a trap? Princess suggested. Fireheart looked into his sister's questioning eyes and suddenly began to wonder. Why would Tigerclaw want to hurt Cinderpaw? It was Bluestar he asked for, Princess pointed out. Fireheart's fur bristled. Could his sister be right? Tigerclaw had summoned Bluestar to the narrowest part of the Thunderpath Verge. Surely even Tigerclaw wouldn't deliberately put his clan leader in danger? Oh dear. If this is true, this is bad news. If Tigerclaw is straight up trying murder tactics now, let alone on the clan leader, he's in the deep end. Like, he's truly evil. Fireheart shook the thought away. I don't know, he stammered. Everything's so confusing at the moment. Even Graystripe's hardly speaking to me. Why? Fireheart shrugged. It's too complicated to explain. Princess nestled next to him in the snow, pressing her soft fur against his. I just feel like such an outsider at the moment, Fireheart went on gloomily. It's not easy being different. Different? Princess looked puzzled. Being born a kitty pet when the other cats are all clan-born? You seem like a clan-born cat to me, mewed Princess. Fireheart blinked gratefully at her. She went on. But if you're not happy in the clan, you can always come home with me. My housefolk would look after you, I'm sure. Fireheart pictured himself living his old kitty pet life, warm, cozy, and safe. But he couldn't forget how he'd watched the woods from his two-leg garden and dreamed of being out in the forest. A breeze stirred his thick fur and carried the scent of a mouse to his nose. Fireheart shook his head firmly. Thank you, Princess, he meowed, but I belong with my clan now. I can never be happy in a two-leg nest. I would miss the sense of the forest and sleeping beneath silver pelts, hunting my own food and sharing it with my clan. His sister's eyes gleamed. It sounds like a good life, she purred. She looked down shyly at her paws. Sometimes even I stare into the forest and wonder what it feels like to live out there. Fireheart purred and stood up. Then you understand? Princess nodded. Are you going back now? Yes. I must take the catnip to Yellowfang while it's fresh. Princess stretched her head forward to press her muzzle into his side. Perhaps my kits will be strong enough to meet you next time you come, she mewed. Excitement tingled in Fireheart's belly. I hope so, he meowed. As he turned to leave, Princess called, Take care, brother. I don't want to lose you again. You won't, Fireheart promised. See, this is the kinds of interactions we've been missing in earlier chapters. Princess is so sweet and kind, and if we see more of these interactions, you can kind of understand why Fireheart is sneaking out to see his sister. But before it was just like, okay, you're sneaking out to hang out with your sister, like, it can't be that serious. Fireheart goes back to camp. Whitestorm praises him for getting catnip when he returns. He's in a much better mood now, so of course here comes Tigerclaw to ruin it. Tigerclaw orders Brackenpaw to take the catnip to Yellowfang and tells Fireheart he can visit Cinderpaw later. And Tigerclaw says, quote, I want to know where Graystripe has been going. Fireheart felt the heat rising under his fur. I don't know, he replied, holding Tigerclaw's gaze. Tigerclaw stared back at him, his eyes cold and hostile. When you see him, he hissed, you can tell him he's confined to the fallen oak. Yellowfang's old den? Fireheart glanced at the tangled branches where the Medicine Cat had lived when she first came into the ThunderClan camp, when she was still considered a ShadowClan outcast. Swiftpaw was there, lying beside Speckletail's dark tabby kit. Cats with white cough are confined there until they are well again. But Graystripe only has a cold, Fireheart protested. A cold is bad enough. He'll stay at the fallen oak, Tigerclaw repeated. Cats with green cough are to nest with Yellowfang. We must stop the sickness from spreading. The deputy's eyes flashed unsympathetically. Fireheart wondered if he thought of illness as a sign of weakness. It is for the good of the clan, Tigerclaw added. I don't know, I think he's smart for this, and it'll finally force Graystripe to stop running off. Yes, Tigerclaw, I'll tell Graystripe. And keep away from Bluestar, the deputy warned. But the green cough has left her, Fireheart objected. I'm aware of that, but her den still reeks of the sickness. I can't afford to have any of my warriors falling ill. Whitestorm tells me that RiverClan warriors have been sent even closer to the camp. He also told me he had to train Brackenpaw today. I expect you to take charge of Brackenpaw's training tomorrow. Fireheart nodded. May I go and see Cinderpaw now? Tigerclaw looked at him. I doubt if Yellowfang has put her anywhere near the cats with green cough, Fireheart added with a flash of irritation. I won't get infected. Very well, Tigerclaw agreed and stalked away. After this interaction, Brackenpaw tells Fireheart that Yellowfang was grateful for the catnip. Fireheart tells him to be prepared to learn how to catch birds tomorrow, and Brackenpaw is excited. So then Fireheart goes to Yellowfang's den. Yellowfang is grateful for the catnip because Patchpelt now has green cough as well. It is running through the camp. She tells him Cinderpaw was awake for a bit, but she has an infection in her leg, and she must fight this one herself. Quote, Fireheart peered into Cinderpaw's nest. The little gray cat was twitching in her sleep, her injured leg twisted awkwardly to one side. Fireheart shuddered, suddenly afraid she might yet lose this struggle. He turned back to Yellowfang, looking for words of encouragement, but the Medicine Cat sat with her head low. She looked exhausted. Do you think Spotted Leaf would have been able to save these cats? She meowed unexpectedly, raising her head to meet his gaze. Fireheart shivered. He could still sense Spotted Leaf's presence here in the clearing. He remembered how efficiently she'd tended to Ravenpaw's shoulder wound after the battle with RiverClan, and how carefully she'd advised him about caring for Yellowfang when the old she-cat had first come to the ThunderClan camp. Then he looked at Yellowfang, her shoulders weighed down with experience. I'm sure there's nothing Spotted Leaf would have done differently, he told her. One of the kits cried out, and Yellowfang sprang up. As she passed, Fireheart leaned forward and gently stroked the old cat's side with his muzzle. She twitched her shoulder gratefully at him. Then, filled with sadness, he turned and padded toward the fern tunnel. The white pelt of Frostfur appeared at the other end. She must be coming to see Cinderpaw. As he approached the queen, Fireheart lifted his head and looked into her blue eyes. The sorrow in them made his heart twist with pain. "Frostfur," he began. The queen stopped. I'm sorry." Fireheart trembled as he spoke. Frostfur looked confused. "What for?" "I should have been able to stop Cinderpaw from going to the Thunderpath." Frostfur gazed at him, but her expression gave away nothing except her sadness. "I don't blame you, Fireheart," she murmured. Then she lowered her head and carried on toward her kit. "So I'm glad she doesn't blame him." Graystripe was back, munching a vole beside the nettle clump. Fireheart padded over to him. "Tigerclaw says you've got to move to the fallen oak with the white cough cats," he meowed. With a prickle of resentment, he remembered how the deputy had questioned him about his friend. "That won't be necessary," replied Graystripe cheerfully. "I'm better now. Yellowfang gave me the all-clear this morning." "Oh, of course." Fireheart looked closely at Graystripe. His eyes were certainly bright again, and his runny nose had dried to an unappealing crust. At any other time, Fireheart would have teased him about how much he looked like Running Nose, the ShadowClan medicine cat. Now he spat crossly. "Tigerclaw has noticed your disappearances. You should be more careful. Why can't you stay away from Silverstream, at least for now?" Graystripe stopped chewing and stared angrily back at Fireheart. "And why can't you mind your own business?" Fireheart closed his eyes and snorted with frustration. Would he ever get through to his friend? Then he wondered if he even cared anymore. After all, Graystripe hadn't asked about Cinderpaw. Fireheart's stomach growled to tell him he was hungry. He might as well eat. He took a sparrow from the pile of fresh kill and carried away to a deserted corner of the camp to eat alone. As he settled down, he thought of Princess, far away in Two Leg Place, with her newborn kits. Lonely and anxious, Fireheart stared across the camp and longed to see her again. That's the end of Chapter 18. Really not good news for anybody in this episode. And we're gonna get into Chapter 19. Fireheart is still yearning for Princess's company, and he's uncomfy with it, so he keeps himself busy by hunting a lot. Whitestorm approaches him when he gets back to camp. He says, "I want you to take Sandpaw out on the dawn patrol. ShadowClan has been scented as close as the Owl Tree." "ShadowClan?" Fireheart echoed in alarm. Perhaps Tigerclaw really had found evidence of an invasion after all. "I was planning to take Brackenpaw out again tomorrow." "Isn't Graystripe better now?" asked Whitestorm. "He can take Brackenpaw." Of course, thought Fireheart. And perhaps training as apprentice would keep Graystripe away from Silverstream for once. But that meant he would have to go on patrol with Sandpaw. And Fireheart couldn't help thinking of the furious look Sandpaw had given him when he'd interrupted her fight with the RiverClan warrior beside the gorge. "Just me and Sandpaw?" he asked. Whitestorm looked at him in surprise. "Sandpaw's almost a warrior, and you can take care of yourself," he replied. Whitestorm had misunderstood Fireheart's concern. He wasn't afraid of being attacked by enemy cats. He was afraid Sandpaw hated him as much as Dustpaw did. But Fireheart didn't correct him. "Does Sandpaw know?" "You can tell her," meowed Whitestorm. Fireheart's ear twitched. He didn't think Sandpaw would be too thrilled by the idea of patrolling with him, but he didn't argue. Whitestorm nodded briefly and bounded away toward the warrior's den. Fireheart sighed and padded over to where Sandpaw was sitting with the other apprentices. "Sandpaw?" Fireheart shifted uneasily. "Whitestorm wants you to patrol with me at dawn tomorrow." He waited for a resentful hiss, but Sandpaw merely looked up at him and meowed, "Fine." Even Dustpaw looked surprised. Okay, echoed Fireheart, taken aback. "Meet you at sunrise, then." "Sunrise," agreed Sandpaw. "That's surprising. Does she not hate him anymore?" Fireheart decided to share the good news about Sandpaw's lack of hostility with Graystripe. Oh boy. "Fireheart, I love you, but you need to, leave Graystripe alone. He's not being a good friend right now." It might be a chance for them to start talking to each other again. Graystripe was sharing tongues with Running Wind by the clump of nettles. "Hi, Fireheart," Running Wind meowed as Fireheart approached. "Hi." Fireheart looked expectantly at Graystripe, but Graystripe had turned his head away and was staring at the boundary wall. Fireheart's heart sank. He dropped his head and turned back toward his nest. He couldn't wait to be out on patrol tomorrow and away from the camp. Graystripe is just straight up being rude now. He's not being a good friend at all. So the next morning, Fireheart meets Sandpaw outside the camp entrance. They greet each other awkwardly and wait for the night patrol to get back. When they do, the patrol tells them ShadowClan has been scented, and it seems to be the same cats every time. So this could just be a band of cats that are cooking up mischief against Nightstar's orders, or it could just be ShadowClan back on their BS again. They also tell Fireheart and Sandpaw to check the RiverClan border and to be careful. Fireheart led the way. "We'll start at Four Trees and work our way along the border to Tall Pines," he meowed as they climbed out of the camp ravine. "Sounds good," replied Sandpaw. "I've never seen Four Trees in the snow." Fireheart listened for sarcasm in her voice, but she seemed to be sincere. They reached the top of the ravine. "Which way now?" Fireheart decided to test her. "Do you think I don't know the way to Four Trees?" Sandpaw protested. Fireheart began to regret acting like a mentor until he noticed a good-humored gleam in her eyes. She charged away through the woods without another word, and Fireheart pelted after her. It felt good to be running through the woods with another cat again. He had to admit Sandpaw was fast. She was still 2 fox lengths ahead when she leaped over the trunk of a fallen tree and disappeared. Fireheart followed, taking the tree in a single bound. As he landed on the other side, something hit him from behind. He skidded in the snow, rolled over, and sprang to his paws. Sandpaw faced him, her whiskers twitching. "Surprise!" Fireheart hissed playfully and leaped on top of her. He was impressed by Sandpaw's strength, but he had the advantage of size. When he finally held her down in the snow, she protested, "Get off, you great lump!" Okay, meowed Fireheart, letting go of her. "But you asked for it." Sandpaw sat up, her orange coat dusted with snow. "You look like you've been caught in a snowstorm," she mewed. "So do you." They both shook the flakes from their fur. "Come on," Fireheart meowed. "We better get a move on." What is happening here? I sense something happening. I don't know. So, they get to 4 trees, and the trees are covered with frost and snow. Sandpaw is in awe of how different they look, and Fireheart is touched by her reaction. Oh my god, wait! Do they have a crush on each other? They go on to mark the RiverClan border, and eventually end up catching a rabbit. Sandpaw says, "That's one of the best things about patrols." "What?" Fireheart asked. "You can eat what you catch instead of having to take it back to the clan," Sandpaw replied. "I don't know how many hunting missions I've nearly starved on." I think she made this up, because as far as I know, it's against the code to eat on any patrol of any kind. You have to take it back to the elders. But maybe I'm wrong. I can't really remember. So Sandpaw notices the river is still frozen, and she says that they can invade RiverClan territory and take back some prey that RiverClan has taken from ThunderClan. Fireheart doesn't know what to feel. He wonders what Graystripe would think, and he's not keen on battling RiverClan if they're starving, as Silverstream told him. So they get back to camp, and, quote, a call sounded from below the high rock. "Fireheart, Sandpaw, how was your patrol?" Fireheart felt a flood of relief when he saw Bluestar looking her normal self, sitting with her chin high and her tail tucked over her front paws. Sandpaw bounded over to the high rock. "The river's frozen," she burst out. "We could cross it easily right now." Bluestar gazed thoughtfully at the apprentice. Fireheart flinched when he saw the ThunderClan leader's eyes gleam. "Thank you, Sandpaw," she meowed. Fireheart leaned over and murmured into Sandpaw's ear, "Come on, let's tell the others." He guessed that Bluestar would want to discuss the frozen river with her senior warriors. Sandpaw glanced at him, understanding, and followed him back to the center of the clearing. "This has been such a great day," she meowed. Fireheart just nodded and glanced anxiously at Graystripe. "Oh my god, Fireheart, stop yearning for Graystripe. You have someone else right in front of you. Stop yearning for your boyfriend who's not your boyfriend. And get a girlfriend." Dang. "You look like you two had fun." Dustpaw had emerged from the apprentice's den. "Drowned another RiverClan cat?" He sneered at Fireheart. Dustpaw looked at Sandpaw expectantly. Fireheart guessed he was waiting for her to agree with him, like she used to, but Sandpaw wasn't listening. Fireheart felt a small prickle of satisfaction at the irritated look on Dustpaw's face as she meowed breathlessly. "We found out that the river's frozen. I think Bluestar's planning a raid on RiverClan." At that moment, their leader's call sounded from the high rock, and the clan began to gather in the clearing. The sun had reached its high point, which in Leafbear meant that it was barely above the treetops. "Sandpaw and Fireheart have brought good news. The river is frozen over," Bluestar announced. "We will take this opportunity to make a raid on RiverClan's hunting grounds, to send the message that they must stop stealing our prey. Our warriors will track down one of their patrols and give them a warning that they'll remember for a long time." Fireheart winced as he remembered what Silverstream had told him about her starving clan. Around him, the other cats raised their voices in eager yowls. Fireheart had not heard the clan this excited for many moons. "Oh boy, this will not go well somehow. They're just going to fight for fighting's sake." "Tigerclaw," Bluestar called above the din. "Are our warriors fit enough for a raid on RiverClan?" Tigerclaw nodded. "Excellent," Bluestar lifted her tail. "Then we shall leave at sunset." The clan yowled with delight. Fireheart's paws prickled. Was Bluestar going too? Surely she wouldn't risk her last life on a border raid? Fireheart looked over his shoulder at Graystripe. He was staring up the high rock, the tip of his tail twitching nervously. As the yowls died away, Graystripe called out, "It feels warmer today. A thaw would make the ice too dangerous to cross." Fireheart held his breath as the other cats turned to look curiously at Graystripe. Tigerclaw stared down at Graystripe, his amber eyes puzzled. "You're not usually reluctant to fight," the dark warrior meowed slowly. Darkstripe craned his neck and added, "Yes, Graystripe, you're not afraid of those RiverClan flea bags, are you?" Graystripe fidgeted uncomfortably as the clan waited for an answer. "Looks like he's scared," hissed Dustpaw from Sandpaw's side. Fireheart's tail flicked angrily, but he managed to keep his voice light as he called, "Yes, of getting his paws wet. Graystripe's fallen through the ice once this Leafbear. He's not keen to do it again." The tension in the clan dissolved into amused purrs. Graystripe looked down at the ground, his ears flat. Only Tigerclaw kept a suspicious frown. Graystripe had better thank him for saving his butt. Bluestar waits until the murmurings had died away, and she says she must discuss the raid with her senior warriors, and so the meeting breaks apart. Quote, "I suppose you expect me to thank you for embarrassing me." Fireheart heard Graystripe's angry hiss in his ear. "Oh my god, brah, he's so annoying. Why can't he just be grateful for once?" Not at all, Fireheart snapped. But you could at least be grateful I'm still covering up for you. He bounded away to the edge of the clearing, his fur bristling with fury. Sandpaw ran over to join him. It's about time we showed those Riverglen cats that they can't hunt in our territory whenever they like, she meowed, her eyes shining. Yes, I suppose so, Fireheart answered absently. He couldn't take his eyes off Graystripe. Was he imagining it, or was the Grey Warrior edging farther and farther toward the nursery? Was Graystripe planning on slipping away to warn Silverstream? Fireheart got slowly to his paws and began to pad toward the nursery. Graystripe glared at Fireheart as he approached, but before either warrior could speak, Bluestar's call sounded once more from the high rock. Fireheart stopped where he was, but didn't take his eyes off Graystripe. Willowpelt agrees with young Graystripe, Bluestar declared. A thaw is on the way. Graystripe lifted his chin and flashed a defiant look at Fireheart, but Fireheart didn't care. Bluestar was going to call off the raid. Now Graystripe wouldn't have to choose between his clan and Silverstream, and Fireheart wouldn't have to join a raiding party against a clan he knew was already suffering. But Bluestar hadn't finished. So we will attack at once. Fireheart glanced sideways. Graystripe's look of triumph had turned to one of sheer horror. Bluestar continued. We will leave a patrol of warriors here to guard the camp. We have to remember the possible threat from ShadowClan. 5 warriors will make the raid. I will remain here. Good, thought Fireheart. She wasn't planning to risk her final life after all. Tigerclaw will lead the raiding party. Darkstripe, Willowpelt, and Longtail will go with him. That leaves one more place. Can I go? Fireheart burst out. Even though his heart felt heavy at the thought of attacking hungry Riverglen cats, it meant the Graystripe wouldn't have to make a choice. After all of this, he's still protecting Graystripe. If it were me, I'd say screw it and let him face the consequences. Fireheart is way too good of a friend. Fireheart be like, I only give you 389 chances. Thank you, Fireheart. You may join the patrol. Bluestar was clearly pleased by her former apprentice's eagerness. Tigerclaw didn't look so happy. He narrowed his eyes at Fireheart, gazing at him with undisguised suspicion. There's no time to lose, Bluestar yowled. I can smell the warm winds myself. Tigerclaw will brief you as you travel. Go now. Darkstripe, Longtail, and Willowpelt sped after Tigerclaw. Fireheart followed them as they thundered through the gorse tunnel and headed up the ravine toward Riverglen territory. They charged past Sunning Rocks and reached the enemy border as the low leaf-bare sun began to dip toward the forest. Fireheart sniffed the air. Graystripe and Willowpelt had been right. He could smell warmer winds and rain clouds were already pushing in over the treetops. As they raced down the slope toward the river, Fireheart felt a deep sense of disquiet. Silverstream's desperate story rang in his ears, and he fought to push away his feelings of sympathy. The ThunderClan warriors emerged from the bracken and skidded to a stop at the edge of the river. The sight that greeted them made Fireheart weak with relief. The shining sheet of ice that Fireheart had seen earlier with Sandpaw had broken up into a rushing flow of cold black water. Thank God, no pointless fighting today, because that is the last thing we need after this episode. Which, by the way, that was the last chapter of this episode. Sort of a cliffhanger. Not really. I don't know what they're going to do next. If they're still going to try and fight Riverglen, or if they're just going to turn back. A lot went on. A lot was bad this episode. ThunderClan is taking L's. Fireheart is giving Graystripe way too many chances. Like, way too many. It's kind of insane. But he's such a good character. That's it for today. Thank you for hanging with me and reading some Warrior Cats with me. New episodes every Friday. I hope if you celebrated Thanksgiving, I hope your Thanksgiving went well. If you participate in Black Friday, I hope you shopped online. And I hope you were nice to your fellow retail workers, because they deserve respect. They deserve respect every day of the year, by the way. Don't be mean to retail workers or service workers, please. They're trying their best and they don't get paid enough. I know, because I'm one of them, and I've been one of them for many years. So, yeah, be nice to your retail workers. Be nice to your friends and family. I hope your holiday season is going well so far. I've just started my Christmas shopping. I celebrate Christmas personally, and it's getting colder, so stay warm. And, yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you. May StarClan light your path.